vill jag att ni håller i applåden för Agnieszka från Kritikerna från Polen.
Dear Sweden, I'm from Poland, so I know what fucked up means. The Western world thought that we, Poland, we were the model student in a class called Central and Eastern Europe or post-transition countries. You know, economy in Poland grown up, we built roads, even highways, glass and steel buildings, and of course, we wanted to be like you. Up until the moment when the refugees crisis started. Then the Polish government said, no, we don't want any refugees in Poland. For years, Swedish social model was an inspiration for the left-wing movements in Europe. And we repeated, look, they are liberal in both politics and the culture. They take care on equality in society. Immigrants and their children are 20% of the population, so they must know how to integrate them. You know that, yeah? I see many immigrants and their children here. And but we forgot one thing. We used to forget that this model was built in the special moment, that it was built in particular special historical circumstances, and also it was based on sometimes not so progressive foundations, notion of national exclusiveness. That's why we cannot repeat this, even if we would love to. On the other hand, you dealt with globalization and neoliberalism, and you try not so much to show that your model can be alternative for global free market individualism. Maybe if you did pretend that this model is replaceable, maybe then the national race to the bottom wouldn't have gone so far. Today, in almost each house in the world, we have something that Sweden gave us. Usually this is log table or expedited shelf from IKEA. You, Sweden, know very well how to distribute furniture, but not so well how to distribute ideas.
Ja, distribuera idéer och möbler. Och det är också den här flyktingkrisen. Känner ni av den? Va? Alla var, det är flyktingkris och jag fick en flyktingkris häromdagen och det var jättejobbigt. Som att det är vi som upplever det, inte flyktingen som flyr. Det är inte hon eller han eller hen som har kris, utan det är vi. Så, nu är det en annan som ska få kris alldeles strax. Vitalie från Över, she's now Moldavien.
Dear Sweden, I'm an activist, journalist and sociologist from Moldova. I'll try to tell you some interesting stories about some serious stuff, which is the opposite of what we sociologists usually do. We take the funny stories and we transform them into some boring books and studies and articles that nobody reads. And you might be wondering, what a Moldovan has to say to a Swedish audience. You might go further and ask, what is the justification of him talking to us? And I have, in my defense, I think I have a strong claim. And it's a story from the 18th century, when the Swedish king Karl XII, I hope I pronounced it correctly, he was fighting the Russians in what he thought is a no man's land, somewhere around what is now Moldova. So technically, back then, the rather unremarkable village of Varnica was where his army was headquartered, was the capital of the Swedish kingdom. So that kind of gives me a justification to talk to you. I have another claim that might sound to even stranger. I claim that I'm talking to you from the future. And I know that when you think of Moldova, you think of like a small, backward country, but don't fool yourself. It's rather just a self-comforting image, and it's a false one. Because in the race that I'm talking about, we are far ahead and you are behind. And I'm talking about the race of getting rid of socialism. Let me tell another story. 25 years ago, we had a society that had free healthcare, free education, cheap utilities, strong labor rights protection, a very rich and good public infrastructure. Now we have lost all of that. Not only the Moldovan children don't have free education anymore, but they actually have to pay for the textbooks that they are renting from the schools. Not only Moldovan citizens don't have free healthcare anymore, but actually they have to pay even for the beds in the hospitals. And I could go on and on. So, dear Sweden, and we, which is a strange thing, we don't seem to stop. We're accelerating actually the process of getting rid or removing all these things like institutions, laws and mechanisms of protection that made our life kind of easier and more comfortable. And as I said, we're ahead, but you're very fast closing the gap. Why we're doing that? Like, we're doing it in the name of fighting the past. We're doing that in the name of becoming more competitive, becoming more flexible, adapting ourselves to the changing reality of the world. But whom are we fooling besides ourselves? Because the world is not changing at all. It is the same sad and greedy reality where some people have it all and some people have next to nothing. So, and it's only us who is changing, and not in the good way. So, dear Sweden, with this speed and this direction, you're becoming more and more like Moldova. Please don't. We've been there, and there is nothing, but really nothing good for you there. Thank you.
Ja, han pratar om Karl den XII, ni vet. Karl den XII. Vet ni att han var flykting? Krigsflykting. 5 år i dåvarande Turkiet. Det är sant? 5 år! Han var där och levde på dem. Det är därför det finns turkar nu här idag. De gör hämnd. Nej, men han var där i 5 år där i Turkiet som krigsflykting. Och när han kommer hem, vet ni vad han gör då? Då tar han hem hundratals turkar till Sverige. Alltså vi pratar om en av historiens största flyktingsmugglare genom tiderna. Och den här kungen älskas av rasister och nationalister. Det är ju sjukt. Ja. Nu, mina damer och herrar, är det dags för den tredje. Och det är Mika från Buksa, Zagreb, Hrvatska. En applåd!
Thank you. Well, I would say, dear Sweden, you definitely fucked up if you need 3 Eastern Europeans to tell you so. Can it get any worse? Well, let me tell you a bit about my country. So we adore, and we can't speak into microphone, but we adore able and efficient businessmen, and we hate lazy public sector. So basically, the businessmen are thriving. They take public subsidies for agriculture, let's say. They take public resources in hospitals and make private business out of it. Then they take, I don't know, factories, they sell them down, they lay off people, and they sell property. And they're called the able businessmen. Basically, what they do is they're paid by the state to do the business. And it's pretty well like in Sweden now. So, are we better off now? Well, in Croatia, in the last 6 years, we had some changes. 6 years ago, we put 1 prime minister into jail over corruption. Then, last month, our government fell, because of the conflict of interest scandal. The most frequent word in Croatian is corruption, but we still believe in neoliberal cure. So why I'm saying all this, what's this got to do with Sweden? When you compare it to Croatia, you're great. I want your citizenship right now. But when you compare it to yourself 25 years ago, you're pretty bad. Privatization, tax cuts, outsourcing, does it sound familiar? Yeah, it does. Well, welcome to my world. And yeah, well, now you have this stage where you're at. Everything is getting worse, but it's more expensive. So you're queuing for rental homes. Your education system is deteriorating. And what else? Your unemployment rate is not getting down. And am I being fair to Sweden? No? After all, Sweden was the model state, welfare state for almost, what, a century? And it still is a model welfare state, but not because you're good, but only because other states went down. Do you really want to be UK or compared to the UK? Anyway, I will stop now with all this. I work as a bartender occasionally in my club, and that's one thing I've learned. So if you're nice to people and if you're polite, you get more people coming and more people spending. I'm not really the nicest person in the world, and I'm not really the best bartender in the world, but even I got it. And Sweden was the best bartender in Europe. And it was best bartender because it was a host. It accepted people and it welcomed them. And now, I mean, it not only made people be happy and pay for it, they even made them pay more and be happy with it. So I'm just wondering, why are you selling out now? Thank you.
Ja. Så, kära Sverige, don't fuck it up. Fortsätt vara Sverige, men fortsätt bli bättre. För vi kan bättre än så här. För vi är fan Sverige. Vi har klarat av det när det var ännu sämre ställt. Ska vi inte klara det när vi har det som bäst? Ja. Om inte, fuck you. Puss.
Detta presenterades av Subtopia och European Cultural Foundation med ett särskilt tack till Botkyrka kommun och Aftonbladet. Och tack så jättemycket. Dear Sweden, you fucked up. Vi kanske blir bättre nästa år. Vi ses. Ciao!